I actually don't think the new G90 M5 is that bad, and here's why. In order to defend myself from netizens, I like to say that the F90 M5 is still my favorite BMW. Now, we really can't talk about the new M5 without mentioning the thing that made everyone on the internet upset, and that was the weight. The new G90 M5 came in with a wet weight of 5,390 pounds.
Damn.
That was about a 1,000 pound increase from the previous generation, weighing in at 4,370 pounds. The F90 M5 was no lightweight either. It basically weighed the same as a Toyota 4Runner at about 4,400 pounds. What has caused such a significant weight gain for the current generation M5? Well, that's what the new powertrain, being a hybrid powertrain for this year, that alone weighs 882 pounds. Not only is the powertrain heavier with the new hybrid motor added, the overall size of the car has gotten quite a bit bigger. It's about 4 inches longer, 2.7 inches wider, and 1.6 inches taller. The wheelbase is also about an inch longer as well. Obviously, with the car being bigger than the previous generation, it's obviously going to add more material weight. To be honest, I'm not really bothered by the weight of the new M5 because guess what? The M5 has never really been about being a lightweight, nimble car. It's always been about being fast with class, and while doing that, you can also haul your family in the back and use it as a daily driver. It's basically a luxury car that's built for straight line speed, to be honest. I mean, it can handle corners, but that's really not its true objective. And if you want something more agile that can handle corners better, BMW already has you covered with their other lineups, such as the M2, 3, or 4 series. It's also no surprise with new vehicles every year, they keep getting bigger and heavier, and that's because there's so much tech that's being stuffed into them, and then in order to fit that tech, they have to make the overall body of the car bigger. While other weight increases across other cars in the market have not been as significant as the M5, I really don't think anyone should really be surprised. Yes, we still cannot ignore the weight increase. Obviously, you're going to feel the extra 1,000 pounds in the corners, and it might overall ruin the driver experience, but like 99% of owners, these are never really going to see a track and be driven that hard. They're mostly going to be highway cruisers or a pension plan on wheels, and also like 99% of us won't be able to even afford the new M5, so I don't know why we are even complaining in the first place.
Like, if you're a broke boy, just say so.
With the most controversial topic of the new M5 out of the way, let's talk about the most controversial topic that basically applies to all BMWs, and that is the styling.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
So starting at the front, let's turn our attention to the headlight design. While I don't think it's as good looking as the F90 generation M5 headlights, there's no denying that it actually kind of looks like the E60 M5 headlights. They're slightly modernized with modern DRLs and LEDs, and a bit fatter to accommodate the size of the G90. And this kind of applies to all areas of the car. You're probably going to hear me mention this multiple times, but I think that BMW engineers really wanted the car to stand out this time. I mean, if we turn our attention now to the grills, they're massive.
That's quite big.
And not only are they huge,
That's what she said.
they really want to show how big it is by having LED trim surround the entire grill. So when you're in the middle of the night, you can see these giant kidney grills glowing in the middle of the night, and you're like, what the heck is that? In my opinion, I think the LED trim around the grill looks a bit tacky and definitely doesn't follow the lines of elegance. So moving on to the side of the M5, I think this is actually where the BMW engineers did their best. I think this is probably the best looking part of the car. Why do I say that? Because the M5 over the standard 5 Series in the previous generation, you really couldn't tell there was a huge difference between a 540i or M5 unless you really were an enthusiast that could say like, oh, the side skirts are different or something like that. The new M5, it has fender flares, and this is something I've always wanted in the previous generation, kind of like how they did with the 3 Series and the M3. You would know it was the M3 because it had those like really exaggerated fender flares, and now they actually decided to carry that over to the new M5. It also still retains a hard body line towards the top of the door, although it's a little bit more blended than the previous generation. I wish they just kind of kept it throughout the entire side. And also in the Hofmeister kink, they decided to put the M5 logo right there to let everybody know this is no ordinary 5 Series. So now we're finally at the back of the car, and honestly, I think this is probably the ugliest part of the car. Hands down, I have no idea what the design team was thinking. And I don't think this just falls in line with just the M5. I honestly think lately the rear end design of these latest models have been going a bit Japanese with their styling, and it's making it very hard to distinguish like, hey, this is a BMW. I was driving in the middle of the night one time and I thought, oh look, it looks like it's a BMW M4 or the new 4 Series up front. I get closer, turns out it's just a Honda HR-V. Off of that off-topic rant, back onto the M5's rear. Let's start with the taillights. These taillights are way too small for how big the car is. I think it's just these tiny little slits that just don't fall in line with the overall design of the car. And also part of the rear of the car is like the rear air vent. I think it kind of looks weird how it's protruded outwards. I think if it felt more in line or it's angled inwards towards the top, it might actually make the car stance look a bit better. Also at the diffuser, I'm not sure why they went with this diffuser design. I think it's also like really high up on the rear bumper, so it kind of looks disproportionate. Not only do I think the diffuser size is disproportionate, I think the weird gap in the middle looks so odd. I don't know why BMW engineers decided to do this gap at the bottom middle of the diffuser. I think it could have just been one piece across the entire bumper. I'm sure engineers know more than me, and I'm sure it has to do with the airflow, but I feel like they could have at least connected it. It looks like they just ran out of carbon fiber or whatever material they're using for the diffuser down there. While I do think the rear end of the M5 sedan version is a bit disproportionate, I do think the overall styling choice fits way better on the wagon version that is being released to us this year. I still think the split diffuser design is a bad choice overall. Hopefully like in an LCI model they fix that. I'm sure there's some aftermarket possibilities to fix that in the future as well. But the wagon version definitely fits the design choice of the new M5 a lot better. So as I was scripting and editing this video, Davis from Adro actually released a video on how he would fix the G90 M5 design flaws. If you haven't seen that, go check out his video as they make some pretty good stuff at Adro, and I love how they keep continuing to innovate and fix BMW's design mistakes. And I watched that video and I'm also glad he likes the F90 M5 as much as I do. So with the two most controversial topics out of the way, let's talk about the powertrain. We should honestly all be grateful that it still retained the 4.4 liter V8 twin turbocharged engine from the previous generation of M5. It seems like BMW engineers decided to watch how Mercedes crashed and burned with their C63 engine being a 4-pot. They also decided not to turn it into an EV crossover. Acura. Now the new M5 is a plug-in hybrid. With the electric motor and the V8 engine combined, it produces 717 horsepower and 738 pound-feet of torque. Even though these modern turbocharged cars have minimal lag, the electric motor will essentially eliminate the power deficit where it would lag, allowing for better acceleration. Since the electric motor is more of an assistance to the main V8, the mileage for the electric motor by itself isn't that great, as it only allows you to go 25 miles electric only. And I personally don't mind hybrids because it allows us to still have these really nice internal combustion engines despite these strict emission laws. It allows us to have the roar of V8s, V10s, and V12s. Well, not so much V10s anymore. Those are basically going extinct. And plus, as you know, internal combustion engines produce things that are bad for the environment. And hybrids can be cool. I mean, if we think about the most grailed hybrids in the supercar market, or even start of the hypercar terminology, is the Holy Trinity, with the McLaren P1, 918 Spider, and the LaFerrari all being good examples of what makes a great hybrid supercar. So moving into the performance of the new M5, there's really no denying that the weight increase never helps with increasing performance, especially with the power to weight ratio being less than the previous generation M5. And this was actually really interesting because Throttle House took the G90 M5 and compared it against the latest facelifted W213 E63S and the latest outgoing RS7 performance. And funny enough, the G90 M5 actually beat both of those cars. So if you're worried about your friend's E63 or RS7 beating you in a drag race, you've got nothing to worry about. And then in the UK, CarWow decided to do a drag race between the G90, F90, and F10 M5s. I don't think this one was the greatest comparison because the F90 on that drag race was actually on an aftermarket tune. And of course, we all know that tuned cars are probably going to do better than the latest generation that's on a stock tune. So if the G90 M5 got a tune-up to see where that would compare against a tuned F90 M5, I think that would have been fair, or maybe just all of them stock would have been an even more fair race. Now, I haven't seen any official lap times comparing the G90 to the F90 on a track. However, I do think the F90 is probably going to do better because it weighs a whole 1,000 pounds less than the G90, but I don't know if BMW engineers are doing some kind of magic with the suspension tuning to keep the G90 as fast as the F90 despite weighing 1,000 pounds more. But like I said earlier, almost no G90 M5 owners engineers are going to be taking their car to the track anyways. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the G effect. The reason why I call it the G effect is because this didn't really happen in the BMW's lifeline until the G8 series came out. I remember when the new M3 and M4 that debuted back in 2021, how negative the sentiment was for BMW enthusiasts across the board. Wow, what are BMW engineers doing? This is the ugliest design I've ever seen, not even giving the car a chance. And now the S58 engine has proven to be a very powerful engine, a very capable engine, and then I think the overall sentiment on the looks of the car has slightly shifted more positive. While there still is a bunch of people out there that still prefer the F80 lineup, I think the sentiment towards the G80s now has shifted drastically, where people don't mind the design anymore or even like the design now. And I am one of those people that hated it at first, but now I actually love it. And I think this is also going to happen to the G90 M5. As for the cosmetic issues I have with the G90 design, I'm sure the aftermarket companies are really going to take care of this, kind of like how Adro, they released their own facelift version of the M3 and M4's front bumpers. I'm sure they might create something for the new G90s in the future. But at the end of the day, I feel like we all like the new M5, but we really just don't know it yet.